Yeah.
Cool, we're live.
Yay.
So we're here at EdCamp Home version 3, and this session is Building Community in the Classroom and Beyond. I signed up to initiate the session, but I don't know if there is supposed to be a separate moderator or if I'm supposed to be the moderator as well, and that's fine. I'm sure, I mean, there's just three of us, so I'm happy just having a conversation amongst the three of us and what we do to build community in the classroom. And since you two are in the classroom currently, I'm looking to get some great ideas from both of you.
I'll share what I did this past year and kind of what I'm thinking about for this next year and trying to think about. This year I kind of threw out my syllabus at the beginning of the year, and instead of spending the first day going over the syllabus, spent the first day building community instead. And so what that looked like for us is I took my kids outside with a canvas and a bunch of little bottles of paint, and they had to each choose a color of paint that they felt like represented them in that moment, and they had to throw it on the canvas in a way that they felt like represented. So if it was just a blob because they were just kind of feeling overwhelmed by the first day or confused and a spiral or whatever, kind of like Jason Pollock style if you've ever heard of him. And then we just spent the hour going around and just explaining why we threw the paint on the canvas in that way and what that represented about us. And then spend some time just talking about how creativity and working together with people is really messy and crazy, but really creates a beautiful experience as well. And hung those in my classroom this past year, and just to be able to go back to that over and over again. And we combine it with kind of a vision statement of being fully known and fully loved, and just fully knowing and fully loving people. And so to have that in our room and continually go back to it really changed the way that we peer edited and the way that we worked on projects together. And so it was really cool to just see how much the impact of starting differently could have on my kids and on me and our relationship through the year. So I'm trying to figure out for this year, like, what's something that I can start with in the beginning to have that same effect, because I don't want to just do the same thing, because I don't feel like it's going to be as powerful that way. But having something, some sort of vision and some sort of activity that can really get the kids off of technology for the day and just engaging with one another and listening to one another, I think is really important.
I'm in a little bit of a different situation. I am teaching kids in a one-to-one laptop program, and so they've been with each other since 6th grade, so 6th, 7th, and now 8th grade. And so they know each other really well, and so some of those beginning of the year fun activities that you do with kids to get them to know each other really don't mean anything to them. But I did have them do try some different technology type things and do different ways to introduce themselves. Some of them did use Dippity and different applications to make to introduce themselves. So some did storyboards, some did different things, and then they got up and introduced themselves that way. I also spend a lot of time on the concept of we're smarter as a whole group than alone.
Mm.
And so I think we lost somebody, did we?
She said she didn't have very good internet, so she might pop in.
Okay. Oops. Anyway, so Melissa left. I'm trying to think of some ways to work on that, that whole idea of we're smarter together than we are by ourselves. So that's actually what I was hoping to come to the session to get some ideas on.
Yeah. Are you hoping to do that in small groups or like as one large group?
Well, I'm just trying to think of some ways to one large group, pretty much. Just having them understand that it's not individual. That together we can be a lot stronger than individually. So and that whole idea of the smartest person in the group is everybody. So that's what I would love, some ideas and some feedback on what I could do for that, because I'm kind of lost at that.
So what was the last thing that you said, Kathy, since I dropped out and then came back in and
Yeah.
missed
Well,
what you
I was
said?
just talking about how the kids that I have been together for 3 years, and
Oh,
so they
okay.
know each other really well. They've been together. They've kind of become a little pocket
Mhm.
of the whole school, and it's a big school, and then eighth grade has about 400 and something students
Wow.
in it, but this program is there's 3 sections, so there's 90 kids that participate in this program, so they're together for the whole 3, excuse me. um, and so those beginning of the year activities and fun getting to know you things really aren't relevant for them.
Okay.
So I'm trying to. I'd like to see them be nicer to each other.
Mhm.
Really. I mean, it's eighth grade, and they've known each other. They're all in their little niches and the places where they are in the middle school world, and so I'd like to see them work more as a team, and be more cohesive, and that's what I'm hoping to get some ideas on how to make them more together, as a whole group.
Are you looking to do with tech or not with tech or just kind of whatever?
Whatever, both.
Trying to
So do you do, in your classroom, do you do project-based learning?
We do, and we do the
Okay.
20% project, and
Uh-huh.
I had a lot of success with that, and that was really good. And so some kids did work with people that they wouldn't normally work with,
Mhm.
because they were working on a project that they were interested in.
think.
But more often than not, kids chose, rather than choosing what they were passionate about, they chose the friends that they wanted to be with. And
Right.
so the students that really did things that they were really passionate and excited about, they were the ones that really got a lot out of the whole assignment. The project. The ones that chose their friends instead and weren't necessarily really excited about what the project was, not so much.
Mhm.
So that's a little off topic, but so in that way, we did do those things. We do different group projects. They work in different groups and do different things throughout the year. But I just like to see them nicer to each other. They're polite. They're polite. They're just not all of them are so accepting of each other, and I'd like to see that change a little bit.
One of the things that has worked really well for me with that has been doing group essays. So one of the things
Mhm.
that I teach is the hero's journey, which is such a long
Mhm.
process that I don't want each kid to write an essay because it will drive me crazy to read and it will drive them crazy to write. And so I divide them into groups of 6, and within
Mhm.
that, each of them has their own individual paragraphs to write. But then within their groups, they also have to write the introduction together and they have to write the conclusion together.
Mhm.
And the whole time they're working in a single Google Doc. And so there's kind of this shared responsibility of we're creating one product together, which has given me way more buy-in in peer editing and
Mhm.
this idea that we're working together and creating something together, and we can raise up the people who might need a little bit more support, like through commenting and stuff. And we talk a lot about different giftings that people have and how some people are really good at doing grammar and spelling, and some people just need a little bit
Mhm.
more help with that and how that can contribute.
Mhm.
And so for me, like that's been a really big part of building the community, and me being on the documents as well and modeling what a good comment is and how to be encouraging in different things has been really cool for me to see them encourage one another, specifically in writing. So that's something that I would recommend trying, because the group effort, like there's a lot of conflict that happens that they have to work through, but it's cool to see them work on just one product together.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good idea. I do have them in writing groups, and writing groups is 6, and so they get close with that little group, but they tend not to branch out and work and talk to other people in the class. They get with the group that they're comfortable with, and then which is important in a writing group. They need to be comfortable with the people that they're in a writing group with. But I just like to see I just like to see, I don't know, in my perfect world, I'd like to see them just more tolerant of each other, and well, not tolerance, not the right word, more accepting of each other.
I mean, so I work mainly with adult learners, so teachers, and there have been several years where I worked with a specific cohort of teachers throughout the whole year. And so I found that what was really successful is, I mean, I would always throughout the set, so I would meet with them either between 2 to 4 hours, the sessions were. And so we would always do some kind of team building opening activity and then a closing activity. And there were a lot of instructional strategies that I used that would mix them up on purpose. And I know some kids don't like that, and even adults are probably worse than kids about that kind of stuff. Like, they don't like to do the activities where they have to get up. Some people just want to sit there. But I would make them do it. And I mean, I just made sure to have different strategies and different activities for all different types of learners, so that if you did want to do a reflection by yourself, then that was perfectly fine. But if this next thing, you're going to be in a group of 4 or a group of 2, or you're going to be with a partner, and then you're going to do that. And so I think in the long run, building that community at the beginning by doing those activities and using those strategies really helped, because by the end of the year, working with these teachers, it was awesome. Like, it was like a family, and it was like we cared about each other and what each person was doing in their classroom. And so I'm a really big advocate of just those kinds of strategies, or even just games. Like, I love doing games too. I think those are really fun.
I was reading a story recently about these kids at a camp, and the kids didn't get along, and they didn't like each other, and they stayed with their little cliques, and that was it, and they didn't get together. And then one day they were going on a field trip or something, and I don't know if this story is exactly right, but this is the gist of it. So they were going on a ride somewhere, and there was a big storm, and the bus got stuck in the mud. And so all of the kids had to get off the bus, and they had to work together to move the bus out of the mud. And it was that working together and working on a common goal that made them come together. And after that, they were like much closer and much more accepting. And they, so I'm trying to also think of something like, what could I do, something like that, this common goal, this common thing that they could do together that would bring them together, and I'm not very good with ideas, so that's where I've gotten with that. So
I like that idea. I think that really, something that I've really developed an interest in is design thinking. And so a lot of that sounds like what you're talking about, because I had just done a workshop with a bunch of other teachers and people from private sector on design thinking stuff, and it was basically, we were watching this group of kids partake in all of these processes, and they were basically finding a problem that they were trying to solve, and how were they going to solve that. And it was cool because they were all just so invested in the process and going through the whole thing of, okay, what are your needs? I mean, are you familiar with design thinking?
Not really. Could you talk about it a little bit?
So it's basically, and I don't know that because I have a very sort of surface level understanding of it, and I am very interested in it, but it's basically looking at a problem and figuring out how can I solve that problem using just what's around me, and either
and developing empathy for your user, and
having empathy, exactly,
and prototyping quickly, so finding solutions quickly, and then
yep, exactly, and iterating and iterating and iterating, so that if it doesn't work, then try something different.
Very similar to 20% Project. and
Mhm.
that
And
whole
so
idea. Yeah.
if you just look up design thinking, so the two big resources that are online are from IDEO, IDEO, and
Mhm.
then the D School at Stanford also has educator resources.
Mhm.
Melissa, if you can get down here September 6th, we're going to have an ed camp at the D School.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Where is it going to be?
at the D School at Stanford.
Oh,
It's going to be
cool.
design thinking, and we're going to run through a whole day of it.
That's
Ooh, when is
awesome.
that?
Can you put that in the chat?
September 6th. Yes.
So yeah, I'll put
I
those
think
links.
that's Saturday, right? Let me look. Let me confirm this date. September 9, it must be.
September 9th.
It's at Stanford, you said?
Yeah.
Do you have a link or something
That
for
will
that
be
that you could put in the chat?
Yeah. Let me find it. We are still early in the planning stages.
That's cool.
Let's see here. Ed Camp D School. Yeah, it's gonna be sweet. Sorry, not to bust the conversation.
No, that's good.
Yes.
So are you helping organize that, Rachel?
September 6th. Yeah. And
September
it
6th.
is from 8 to 3 at the D School. And we don't have a website yet, but we will. If you follow Carl or I on Twitter, you'll find out stuff about it.
Okay.
So, anyway, I think
Melissa,
one
you were
idea
saying-
with that would be interesting for you to do with your kids at the first start would be to create kind of like a survival video for 7th graders, and have them work together to think about what are things that either 7th graders or 6th graders, people who are new to your school and to your program, need to know in order to thrive in that program. Because that could be something that they could brainstorm ideas on and work together, and create one product, but maybe do little smaller groups within that. And so they're still working together, but
That's a good
it's
idea.
hard to get 20, 30 plus students all working on the same thing.
Right.
And so could they
Yeah.
make videos and then export them and just resplice them together in iMovie or something, to create one product that you could actually share with the 6th grade or the 7th grade teachers and say, hey, or invite the 6th or 7th graders in and say, hey, we'd love to show you this video and just answer questions with you and see kind of what
Mommy, is it spell?
Excuse me. I'll be back in just a minute. That's a great idea, but let me go take care of her for a second. Want to say hello?
It is spell. It is spell Frosty the Snowman.
Okay, let's go. We'll be right back.
All right, no problem.
So Rachel, do you teach with Carl?
I don't.
Okay.
I teach in South San Jose,
Okay.
but we've worked together on a couple things and have hung out.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Fun.
But you should definitely come down. It's going to be a good time. It's going to be.
I was just down in the Bay Area at the end of May. So my school district, along with a partnering school district that we did a Gates Foundation grant with, we went to visit a couple of schools.
Okay.
And then we actually, after the school visit one day, there was a group of us that went to the Stanford campus, and I'd never been there. It was gorgeous.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's unreal.
It's crazy. Like the Palm Drive, I would go to school.
Exactly.
It was nuts. It would look so fun.
I know. I would have never studied, though. But that's great.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
That's okay.
My TV is doing the babysitting right now, so.
Do it.
So we put the links and the info in the chat. So
great.
Kathy, make sure you get those
Okay.
before we quit our hangout, which it looks like we have about 9 minutes left.
Okay.
So do you all do specific things at the end of the year related to community building as sort of a celebration kind of thing? Or do you just generally do a celebration thing, or do you do specific other things?
One thing that I did a few years ago that I just thought of at the end of the year is this is with a group of 6th graders that I had, but I had them do affirmations for each other. So each one of them wrote an affirmation, like a 1-sentence affirmation for every other student in the class. And then we glued them on the paper and they cut them out and they made a little book out of it. And so they all left with a book of affirmations and the kids loved it. And I see students sometimes that were in that class and they still have their books. They've kept them. And so that was really nice. It took a lot of time, but I think it was worth it. I don't know if I could do it with 36 students. I had 25 at the time, so with 34 students, 36 students, I don't know if I could do that. But it was a really worthwhile experience for them.
This year, since I did that Canvas thing at the beginning of the year, I cut up the Canvas and gave every kid a piece of it.
That's a great idea.
Just because we talked about how the community that we had this year can never be repeated, so it makes no sense to save the whole canvas anyway and to just take it at home with them. So that was really cool and meaningful, and I just took a lot of time to affirm them and give them kind of like, this is how you've impacted me this year. But in other ways I do, like I tried book speed dating this year, which isn't necessarily community, but I think it helped build community, where they basically had to bring in a book and speed date with their classmates to tell about the book, to prep them for some summer reading. And so I got a lot of good feedback out of that, which was cool to just see how this Wiley class that doesn't necessarily like to read or work just got so excited about books and sharing that with people. But I do more reflection at the end, I feel like, which builds community on some level. What about
Yeah, totally.
you work with teachers? What are some the things you end with?
So, I do a lot of reflection too, and so I haven't had that same format where I've worked with the same group for a year. But usually if I do workshops, I will always do a reflective piece at the end of the session. I think that's really important. So whether it's in writing by yourself where you're thinking on your own, or if you're exchanging thoughts and sharing with the partner, I feel like that's really important to give that time. So those are some of the standard things I do when I have workshops.
What does that look like for you? And that, like, can you give a little more specific of what that looks like?
So I usually have some kind of prompt or some kind of strategy that activity that I will, so for instance, that I'll push out to the group. So it'll be, so what are 3 things that you learned during the session? What are 2 things that you're going to take back to your building and use right away? What's 1 thing that you're going to follow up on? Whether it's following up with me or following up with someone else.
Thanks.
And so I'm going to put in the chat, I'm part of this EdTech cadre that we have in Oregon, and we have this strategies database that is phenomenal. So I'm going to put that in. And if you just want to browse, you don't have to create an account or anything. Okay. And there's hundreds and hundreds of different kinds of strategies in there.
Sweet.
And that you can search by, oops, and I don't know if that link, if it will work, because it looks like, I don't know if
it worked.
Didn't wrap.
It worked for me.
Okay, good.
Cool. Thanks. Yeah, I try and do a lot of these kind of little games in the first week of school and do a lot less teaching and a lot more of that type of thing. that's, if you guys have ever heard of Ronnie Habib, he teaches positive psychology in Palo Alto, and that man just like, he gets the building community with his kids, and so he really inspired me last summer to try some things, and it's cool to see their effects.
Cool.
Yeah, I saw him at the Q conference in the fall.
Nice.
Yeah. That's good.
And I'm trying to think if there's anything else specific that I do.
See, so what other things? Yeah, those are good ideas. I like that Canvas idea. So what are you thinking you're going to do for the fall, for the new school year?
I don't know, and it's a lot of pressure
yet?
to like think of something great, because I did this one that I know works because I had done it before. So I don't know. I'm looking for ideas. I'm going to try and Google some, I think, but I don't know. There's some out there with like circles where you get the kid like a quarter of a circle, and then that makes a whole circle together. So I thought about doing something like that where they each get a little piece, and then it creates a bigger type of thing. But I like the element that we had. I'll put in the chat a blog post I wrote on that experience if you want to look at it.
Cool.
And so that, yeah, I don't know what to do. I'm looking for ideas. If you think of anything. That could be done in 40 minutes and create good conversation. So we'll see. And I think I want to do it no tech.
Yeah. What if you did something more, like what if they made something? Like using, if they just made something like that. I don't know what I don't know what the criteria would necessarily be. I'm just sort of brainstorming.
Yeah, I thought about even kind of just flipping it on them and giving them this and supplies and saying, create what you want to represent your community this year, what you think the community should look like. Because I have the same students 3 years in a row, so in 2 of my 3 classes, they know each other really well, and they know me. And so I know it would work with one of the classes for sure to just flip it on them.
Well, here's the other question that I'm thinking about is you're talking about all these great ideas and these canvases and things and spending this time doing this. And I used to spend 2-3 weeks doing that stuff, but with all the standards and all the pressure and all the stuff to get things done and be on time and stuff like that, I've had to take out a lot of the fun stuff, a lot of the stuff that builds that community and stuff, because there's just not the time for it. I mean, I don't know if it's different at a private school, but I mean, how can you weigh that and decide? I mean, it's important to build community, but also, you have people watching you, and do you have a rigorous curriculum, and are you doing, are you teaching, are you getting them ready for high school?
Yeah, and it does take a lot more time, and I don't have to meet like certain standards. I have to prepare them for high school, and they need to be able to get into the private high schools. That's kind of the standard that I have to meet. But for me, the depth, especially with language arts, I can tie language arts in with both things, which is really nice. But I find that the community provides a depth that and sets a stage for them to explore and work together all year that I wouldn't get without that, and they wouldn't have a deep of an understanding of the curriculum. And so to me it makes a difference, and I feel like I could justify it to my admin if he tried to track me down and say, why are you doing this? But I also have supportive admin who believe in that type of thing. So yeah, it's a struggle for sure, and I don't know what the answers are other than I want to say, well, what's best for the students, right? Like,
right.
What's the student going to remember 15 years down the line?
Right.
I remember very little of the actual content of what I studied in middle school language arts, but I remember the teachers and the people, and
Right,
Well,
the
that's the
experiences.
Yeah, and with No Child Left Behind, I mean, I don't know about you, but I started teaching in 1993 or 94, and we used to do a lot of fun stuff. We didn't have standards like we do now, and I can remember I had my first baby at in 2000, so I left for a year, and when I came back, the standards were in place, and I can remember just my whole teaching style changing. And in my opinion, I became a worse teacher because I couldn't do the things that the kids remembered. I mean, we used to do things like puppet shows and fun things that were all academic, but they didn't necessarily meet the standards. But those are the things that the kids remembered. And I don't feel like there's enough time to do a lot of that stuff anymore, and it's frustrating.
Yeah, I don't know, like, yeah, I don't know what the answer is. It's hard for sure.
No, I don't either. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't either, aside from stop all the standardized testing.
Absolutely.
Education reform.
Reforming the reform that we have now.
Where you can do these things, I don't know.
Well,
So it looks like our time is up if I'm keeping track properly. And the next session starts in 20 minutes.
okay.
Sounds good.
So it was great meeting you both.
You too.
Yeah,
Thank you.
And thanks for all the resources and ideas.
Thank you.
Talk to
Yeah,
you.
definitely.
All right.
Yeah. Okay,
Bye.
see you the next session.
Okay.
maybe.
Bye.
All right.